I knew something was off the second we stepped into the lobby. Gulf Side Pines was supposed to be our reset button, one last try at holding the family together before everything snapped for good. I'd planned the whole trip, saved for 6 months, booked oceanfront rooms, packed all the beach gear myself, even double-checked the sunscreen so no one would complain. But right there, standing next to the front desk, Denise looked me dead in the eye and said, "Oh, by the way, I booked rooms for me, Trent, and the kids. You'll have to find your own." I blinked, thought I misheard. "Trent?" I asked. She smiled like it was no big deal. "Yeah, Trent's coming. I told you we stayed friends. He's basically part of the family now." Then this tall, sunburnt bastard walked through the revolving doors like he was checking into his honeymoon. Faded college hoodie, cargo shorts, smug as hell. He looked at me like I was some awkward Airbnb host, not the man who paid for the whole trip. He nodded once and said, "Don't make this weird, man. Before we go further, quick note. Before listening, share which city or country you're watching from." I just stared at them. Couldn't even process the full insult. My 3 kids were behind me, holding their bags, looking around, confused. Emma, my youngest, tugged at my sleeve. "Where's your room, Dad?" I opened my mouth. Nothing came out. Denise didn't flinch. She handed her ID to the front desk, like she was checking into a spa weekend. 2 connecting rooms, she told the clerk. Ocean view. I had to turn away before I said something I'd regret. Trent rolled his little carry-on past me, then turned back and said, "Seriously, though, don't make this into a scene." I clenched my jaw so tight I thought I might crack a molar. Every instinct in my body wanted to swing. Not at him, at her. Instead, I swallowed it. All of it. I nodded once, leaned down, kissed Emma on the head, then walked outside into the Florida heat. I booked the dinner 3 months earlier, called the restaurant myself, asked for the big family table on the patio. I had this image in my head. Ocean breeze, cold drinks, maybe one quiet night where nobody was fighting. Instead, I showed up and found myself shoved to the end of the table like some damn distant uncle no one remembered inviting. Trent sat in my seat, dead center. Arms stretched across the back of Denise's chair like he'd earned his way there. She giggled at something he whispered, biting her lip like a teenager. The hostess looked at me with this awkward little smile and said, "You're with them, right?" I nodded, even though I barely recognized the people in front of me anymore. The only open chair was at the far end, next to Drew. He didn't look up, just kept spinning his straw wrapper between his fingers. I sat down, pulled my napkin into my lap, and stared down the length of the table at the family I was supposed to be holding together. Denise ordered a bottle of wine. "We'll do the cab," she said, like I wasn't even there. Trent waved the waiter off when he tried to offer me a glass. 10 minutes in, they were already laughing. Inside jokes, college stories, her hand on his arm like it belonged there. She didn't just forget I was her husband, she acted like I never had been. Trent leaned back in his chair and started talking about his motorcycle. Drew flinched every time he cursed, but Denise didn't say a word. Emma asked for chicken tenders, and Denise told her to get something grown up. Kyle asked about the pool hours, and Trent cut in, said he'd take them tomorrow. Just me and the kids. My fork froze halfway to my mouth. I looked at Kyle. He didn't meet my eyes, but his shoulders tensed. Halfway through the meal, Denise clinked her spoon against her glass and said, "Okay, kids, let's all raise a glass to your dad for tagging along like some excess baggage." The kids went dead quiet. I stared at her. She didn't blink. She kept that fake open-mouth smile like she'd just delivered a punchline on a sitcom. "Seriously," she added, "you know he couldn't let go. Not even for one trip." Trent laughed under his breath. "He's got that divorced dad vibe already," he said, shaking his head. "The cargo shorts, the awkward silences. It's textbook." Drew looked down at his plate. Emma poked at her peas. Kyle straightened up, jaw tight, fists under the table. I saw it, that flicker of anger behind his eyes. But he didn't say anything. He just sat there and swallowed it. Same as me. That's when I stood up. Chairs scraped the concrete loud enough to make people look. I didn't say a word. I didn't throw a fit or make a scene. I just pushed the chair back into place, nodded once to Drew, and walked toward the exit. No one stopped me. Denise didn't even glance up. Out in the parking lot, I stood still for a second, watching the ocean across the street. I could still hear them laughing behind me, forks clinking, Trent's stupid voice carrying in the air like this was just another beach night with the new family. I walked straight across the lot, past the valet stand, didn't even check my phone. I already knew what I had to do. I didn't look back. I walked 2 blocks down, caught a cab to the other end of the resort, and paid for my own suite under a different name. No one knew where I went. No texts, no location sharing, no explanation. By the time I dropped my bag and locked the door behind me, my phone was already buzzing. Denise, then Kyle, then home, then Denise again. I let it ring every time. I had nothing left to say that wouldn't explode the whole thing right there. I sat down at the little round desk by the window, plugged in my laptop, and opened the banking dashboard. Our shared business accounts came up in a few clicks. She always said she was the brains behind our money. The branding, the marketing, the image. But I was the one who registered the LLCs. I set up the EINs. I did the taxes, the contracts, the asset filings. Everything was under my name, and she never paid attention to that part. I started with the checking account, the one we used to pay vendors and process orders from her boutique. I transferred everything over to a separate business account I'd set up 6 months earlier, just in case. I'd never told her it existed. It was buried under a holding company she'd never seen. Then I froze the backup card we used for monthly expenses. After that, the joint savings. Gone. Not stolen, not hidden. Just legally moved into my own protected account. The texts kept coming. Denise. Where are you? Denise. You're ruining the trip. Denise. Are you seriously pouting over dinner? I ignored them all. Next up were the 2 rental homes we bought 3 years ago. One in Ocala, one outside Tampa. Both technically belonged to my LLC. Denise had never bothered to learn how they were structured. She just liked bragging about them to her friends like we were building an empire. I opened the property management portal, switched the payment routing, and scheduled the ownership transfer into a trust I controlled solo. That alone would freeze her access until the dust settled. By midnight, I'd already set up fraud alerts, flagged any withdrawals over $200, and shut down the auto payments she used for her spa memberships and shopping accounts. She had no idea I was the one holding the reins the entire time. I looked out the window. Her suite was somewhere across the resort, lights on, probably drinking wine and making fun of me while the kids tried to act like everything was normal. By the time I shut the laptop and turned off the light, the money was gone. The homes were secure. The business? Mine again. She thought I was licking my wounds. Truth was, I was already 3 steps ahead. At 1:13 a.m., I called Marty Wolf. He picked up on the second ring. "Talk to me," he said. "I want to file for legal separation and full asset protection, starting now." He didn't need a backstory. Marty had heard enough over the last couple years to know where this was going. He'd been warning me for months that I needed to be ready. I told him I wasn't sure back then. I was sure now. "I'll draft the separation, file the freeze orders, and queue up the service," he said. "You want it delivered here or back home?" "Here," I said, "before the week is out." Marty grunted. "You got it." While he got to work, I kept going. I logged back in, triple-checked all the transfers, made sure the accounts were clean, verified the routing changes on both properties. I combed through the business licenses, re-downloaded the ownership documents, saved everything to 2 encrypted drives, and emailed copies to Marty. At 3:42 a.m., I called the bank and flagged 3 accounts for suspicious activity. All legit, all in my name. They froze them on the spot. No access until verified. Her cards, her auto drafts, her logins. Dead weight now. I booked a courier to hand-deliver backup forms to our accountant back home. I wasn't leaving any gaps. Denise wanted a show, and I was about to give her one with legal lighting and financial sound effects. By sunrise, Marty sent me a text. "Marty, drafts are done. You'll have copies by 9. Service scheduled." At 7:50 a.m., I called the last account, the one tied to her boutique's shipping vendor. I killed the card, updated the billing to a locked backup, and paused the whole vendor system pending internal review. That would take at least 10 business days to sort. At 8 was on the dot, her access officially died. No email, no text, no alert, just gone. All those years she spent bragging about being the brand, the image, the storefront, the face. That was fine. I was the foundation, and I just pulled the bolts loose. I stood by the window in my suite, coffee in hand, watching the sun crawl up over the palm trees. I imagined her across the resort, still sleeping, maybe wondering why her phone wouldn't connect to the bank app. Maybe she'd try to book a massage and get denied, or swipe a card at the gift shop and hit a wall. She walked into this place like she was on vacation. She had no idea it was a battlefield, and I had 6 hours of silence behind me. 6 hours of pure, unchallenged momentum before she'd even start to figure it out. I sipped a black coffee from the pool bar and leaned on the railing of the upper deck, right above the resort checkout counter. Palm trees rustled. A few families were dragging beach bags to their cars, and Denise. She was right on schedule. She stepped up to the front desk in sunglasses and wedge heels, rolling 2 bags and tossing her hair like she owned the building. Trent stood behind her, arms crossed, chewing gum like some bored teenager at the DMV. The kids lingered by the sitting area, looking drained. The clerk asked for her room number. Denise smiled, handed over her card. It took about 10 seconds. Declined. The smile cracked just a little. She glanced at Trent. The clerk tried again. Declined. Denise leaned in, whispering now, "There must be some mistake. Try it again, please." Her posture changed. One heel started bouncing. She looked back at Trent like he was supposed to fix it. He stepped forward and pulled out his wallet. "I've got it," he said, handing over a card like he thought it would impress her. The clerk swiped it, waited, declined. Nearby, a couple in tennis gear paused at the coffee stand and started watching. A family sitting with their check-in packets leaned toward the desk, listening. Denise's voice dropped again. She looked rattled now. "We've been here all week. This is obviously some kind of error," she said, louder this time, trying to save face. The clerk stayed calm. "I'm happy to run it again, ma'am, but we do require payment in full before checkout." Trent stepped back and threw his hands up. "It's the damn bank. They've got these dumb fraud alerts. This isn't us. Call 'em, babe." Denise fumbled with her phone, muttering, pacing now. Her sunglasses came off. She looked sweaty. I watched Kyle step away from the little seating area, walk over to Emma and Drew, and say something quietly. I couldn't hear it, but Emma looked up, startled. Drew blinked. Then Kyle said it louder. "Dad paid for everything. I saw him at the desk last night." Denise froze. She turned toward the kids. "What did you say?" Kyle repeated it without blinking. "He was standing at the counter last night. I saw his card. I saw the receipt." Denise turned back to the desk. I don't understand, ma'am," the clerk interrupted gently. "Would you like to try a different card, or would you prefer we set up a payment plan?" Trent looked like he wanted to vanish. He yanked his bag off the cart and walked out of frame, muttering, "Unreal," under his breath. I didn't wait around for the meltdown. I turned, rolled my bag toward the cab lane, and nodded to the valet guy who held the door open. As I stepped into the cab, I caught one last glimpse of her through the glass doors. Phone pressed to her ear, face flushed, arms waving, guests watching. She looked like someone who just realized they'd been outplayed. Hard. And me? I sat back, shut the door, and finally exhaled. The condo was nothing special. 2 beds, tile floors, beige walls, quiet neighbors. But it was mine. It sat just 10 minutes from the kids' school, and for the first time in a long time, the place didn't hum with tension. I sat at the small kitchen table with a legal pad, 3 envelopes, and a black ink pen. No distractions, no screens. I was done explaining myself through texts they didn't read or calls she made sure they missed. I was done begging to be understood, so I wrote. For Emma, I kept it simple. "Remember when you had the flu and we watched The Iron Giant 12 times in one weekend?" I could still hear her tiny voice quoting every line. "You said it made your head hurt less. You fell asleep on my chest, drooling on my old Seahawks hoodie. Best weekend I've ever had." For Drew, I wrote about his first Little League season. "You hated the cleats, remember that? Kept saying they felt like bricks. I traded in my Fender Strat for your uniforms. The one you loved to hear me play at bedtime. Didn't regret it for a second." For Kyle, I reminded him of the volcano project. "Your mom forgot it was due. You were crushed. We stayed up until 2 in the morning building it with newspaper and vinegar. You got a B+, but your teacher pulled me aside and said it was the most effort he'd seen from a parent all year." I sealed the envelopes, wrote their names in bold letters on the front, and drove them over to the school. The secretary behind the desk knew who I was. She gave me a sad sort of smile, like she'd been waiting for this moment. I slid the envelopes across the counter. "Can you hand-deliver these?" one each, quietly. Just make sure they read 'em. She nodded. I'll take care of it. I didn't expect much. Denise controlled the narrative, always had. I figured the letters would end up shoved into backpacks or tossed in the trash on the kitchen counter. But 2 days later, my phone lit up from an unknown number. I let it ring once, then picked up. Dad? It was Kyle. I didn't say anything at first. Just let the silence hang while he worked up the nerve. His voice cracked. I didn't know. I'm sorry. That hit harder than I thought it would. I swallowed the lump in my throat. I know, bud. It's all right. He took a shaky breath. The stuff in that letter, I remember it all. The volcano. You staying up with me? You were always there. I nodded, even though he couldn't see me. Still am. There was a pause. I want to come see you, he said. Is that okay? I looked around the condo, the second bedroom half set up, waiting. His old poster already taped to the wall. I smiled. Yeah, it's more than okay. Kyle came first. He spent Saturday night with me, then went back to Denise's on Sunday because he didn't want Emma and Drew left alone with her and Trent. That's when things started cracking open. By Tuesday he texted, fridge is empty, no groceries, they're fighting again. Denise didn't cook anymore. Said she was too stressed and ordered takeout maybe twice a week max. The rest of the time, the kids were left piecing together cereal and frozen waffles. Kyle sent me a picture of Drew eating sliced cheese straight from the pack, sitting on the kitchen floor in his socks. Trent? He was either yelling about something or blasting the TV. Football mostly. Always drunk off cheap beer and pissed off about something Denise said or something the kids didn't do right. The man had no off switch. Emma texted me a crying emoji after she had a nightmare. When I called, she whispered into the phone, Mom said I should grow up. She's 9. I didn't say anything, just listened to her breathe. Then Kyle found the photo album. The big one I kept adding to over the years. School events, camping trips, holidays, little league, piano recitals, birthdays, all of it. Mostly pictures of me and the kids because Denise was never around for the normal stuff. Too tired, too busy, too bored. He texted me a picture of the open album on his lap. Kyle, did you make this? Me. Yeah. Been adding to it since you were 5. Kyle, it's all you. Everything. Then Drew called. It was close to midnight. I was half asleep when I saw his name flash on my screen. I picked up fast. Dad? His voice was so quiet I almost missed it. Yeah, buddy? You okay? A pause. Then, can we come live with you? I sat up. You sure? He sniffled. I don't want to be here anymore. My throat tightened. Pack your stuff. I'll be here. That weekend, I heard the knock around noon. I opened the door to see all 3 of them. Backpacks slung over their shoulders, Emma hugging a stuffed bear, Kyle standing protectively in front of them, and Drew holding a trash bag full of clothes. They didn't say a word. They didn't have to. Kyle stepped forward first. We're sorry, Dad. I nodded. Don't be. Emma walked past me and went straight to the couch, curling up like she'd finally found somewhere soft. Drew looked up at me. Is it okay? I rested a hand on his shoulder. It's more than okay. They didn't even ask what room was theirs. They just walked in like they already knew. Monday morning, Marty texted me. It's go time. Denise always did brunch on Mondays. Her self-care day, she called it. Really, it was 2 hours of gossip and overpriced smoothies with the women from her yoga class. Women who thought parenting was just another performance, something you posted about but rarely showed up for. Marty said, you've been served. Then he dropped a thick manila envelope next to her avocado toast, turned around, and walked out without another word. Inside was everything: legal separation, temporary custody petition, financial disclosures, asset freeze notices, discovery request, and a list of documented business transfers. All neat, all signed, all backed by the law. I knew the moment she read it because my phone started buzzing nonstop. First time she'd called in weeks. I didn't answer. Kyle glanced over from the couch. She's freaking out, he said. I can tell. A few hours later, he gave me the rest. She got home in full meltdown mode, threw a glass against the kitchen wall, screamed at Trent for letting this happen, said I'd ambushed her like some vengeful psycho. Kyle said she was pacing in the hallway, slamming cabinets, blaming everyone except herself. Trent didn't say much, just packed a bag that night and crashed on the couch. 2 days later, he was gone. No goodbye, no message, just poof. Denise tried to play it cool, told the kids it was just temporary, but Emma overheard her on the phone, begging her sister for a loan. I got a text that afternoon from an unknown number. All it said was, "She's asking people for money. Nobody's biting." A week passed. No more calls from her. Just silence. The same kind I gave her when she thought I'd rolled over and disappeared. Now she got to sit in it. I drove by the old house one night just to see it. Porch light was off. Trash cans overflowing. Curtains shut tight. No laughter, no music, no cars in the driveway. She built a kingdom on control, image, reputation. Meanwhile, I built something slower. Paperwork, proof, history. I let her believe I was asleep at the wheel. That envelope at brunch was just the ignition. I mailed it on a Thursday. Certified. Signature required. No room for lost in the mail excuses. 32 pages, printed single-sided, organized by category, with receipts and account numbers to back every line. Mortgage payments, every month, 15 years, private school tuition, all 3 kids, all up front, paid for my accounts. Hospital bills, the night Drew broke his wrist, Emma's tonsillectomy, Kyle's concussion from football. I covered it all, quietly, consistently. Page 12 was a breakdown of extracurriculars. Baseball registration, soccer cleats, piano lessons, dance recitals. Every line item with a date, a check number, and a canceled transaction. Page 19, vacations. The Disney trip she said she planned herself. Nope, booked and paid by me. Same for Yellowstone, Myrtle Beach, and that cabin in Asheville. She picked the filters. I paid the invoices. But what I really wanted her to see was page 27, a spreadsheet labeled Unpaid Labor, Boutique Fulfillment Support Hours, 1,470 duties, Inventory Management, Package Shipping, Returns, Customer Service Emails, Web Maintenance, Pay, Euro amount. That's euro. She used to brag to her friends that I helped a little on weekends. The truth was I ran the back end of her entire online store while she took yoga selfies and watched TikToks. The last page was just one line. Silence wasn't surrender. It was planning. Marty said it was overkill. I said it was overdue. Kyle texted me 2 days later. Kyle, just found mom in the garage crying. Me, she okay? Kyle, she was holding a returned package, one of the boutique boxes. Kyle, didn't say anything, just sat there. I didn't reply. Kyle said she barely left her room that week. The yoga friends stopped coming around. The wine bottles stacked up in the bin out back. Even her sister stopped replying to her texts. Meanwhile, the kids? They adjusted faster than I expected. Drew kept his head down, did his homework at the kitchen counter. Emma started sleeping through the night again. Kyle helped me fix the shower in the guest bathroom, like he'd been waiting for a reason to feel useful again. None of them asked about Denise. They didn't have to. Her name barely lived in our house anymore, just floated around like a forgotten radio station you might stumble across by accident. I gave her everything she asked for, the spotlight, the show, the chance to call me weak and distant. She could have kept the illusion going forever if she'd just left it alone. But she pushed. She laughed in my face. She thought I'd stay quiet. Now all she had was an empty house, a dead business, and a 30-day clock ticking over her head. I closed on the house in late October. 4-bedroom ranch, edge of town, just far enough from the noise, but close enough to the school and the grocery store. Nothing flashy, just clean, quiet, and ours. The day we moved in, Emma walked into the empty room at the end of the hall and claimed it without asking. Purple walls, she said, with those glowing star stickers on the ceiling. I painted it that weekend. She helped, got more on the floor than the wall, but it didn't matter. Drew picked the garage. We cleaned it out, laid a rug down, slapped some paint on the walls, and turned it into a little den. His baseball posters went up first, then his glove on a hook, then his old team jersey, framed like it belonged in Cooperstown. Kyle didn't say much that first week, just followed my lead. One afternoon he asked if we could build a fire pit. I said sure. We drove to the hardware store, grabbed bricks, gravel, and a steel ring. Took 2 afternoons and a few burnt hot dogs, but we got it right. Every Sunday after that, we grilled burgers out back. No yelling, no judgment, no walking on eggshells. Just the 4 of us around a fire, laughing about nothing and everything. I picked up work again. Freelance accounting, clean books, steady clients, Most of them used to work with us back when Denise ran the front desk. They called me directly now. One of them even said, "Glad it's just you. Always preferred how you handled things." 6 months later, Denise moved out of the city. Nobody knew where she went. Nobody asked. Trent was long gone by then. The kids didn't bring either of them up. That night by the fire pit, Kyle sat beside me, flipping a stick through the flames. He didn't look up when he said it. "You were always the one holding us together. We just didn't see it." I handed him a cold Coke, cracked one open for myself. "Now you know," he nodded, took a sip. No more words needed. The house was quiet. The kind of quiet that feels earned. The kind that tells you the storm passed and you're still standing. My silence was never weakness. It was strategy, and I played it to the end. Would you have walked away or burned it down like I did? Drop your answer in the comments. And don't forget to like and subscribe for more stories like this.